on pitch decks. So I'm hoping everybody here is actually focused on kind of getting their ideas out of their head, and or if they're working on a pitch deck for the competition, or if you've had an idea for a very long time that you've probably started a pitch deck on, maybe you can use this presentation to iterate your pitch deck, okay? So first thing and first, if you haven't registered, please go ahead and register. If you have registered, please check in. All right, so go ahead and scan this, check in real quick. What that does for me, it lets me know that you checked in, and then you also get email feedback on the program, and that will actually help us out a lot to let us know if you enjoy the program, if we need to change things around, okay? So intentionally, today's presentation is going to be have some words, a lot of words on one slide, and then a lot of images on another. And that's designed for a reason. So when you're trying to explain something to someone, you use a lot of content. When you really want someone to comprehend and engage with you, you also provide visuals, right? Most of the pitch decks are usually designed to where you have limited words, more visual, and then your words that you speak and the way you convey it starts to get across to me, and then I can better understand it and start to get on board with you. So I'm going to show you how to condense down your slides to have images and also less words. But you're going to start off with an understanding of how to do design and content, okay? Once again, 1 second, let me cough here. Who are designers? Who's a designer? Someone who has design skills. Well, we all can use Canva now, so I mean, we all got some design skills, just a tad bit, right? But for those who are not designers, we will always say start with content, right? So we're going to start with that first. What is a pitch deck, though? What is a pitch deck? Who can tell me what they think a pitch deck is? Some of you know already, so I'm going to expect you to raise your hand. Oh, no. Thank you. Alan, what is a pitch deck, man? What is a pitch deck? Oh, yeah, please use the mic. We're using the mic so that we can gap some audio so people who are listening to this live and or on recorded can understand what you're saying, okay? Go ahead. Green, as long as it's green.
Hello. So a pitch deck is a way for you to convey your ambitions to investors. So you have to talk about, you know, what the problem you're solving, your solution, and how you make money. So that's the gist of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Alan. So it is the gist of it. Go ahead and turn it off if you want to, please. It is the gist of it, but it's not only to investors, right? Investors, from the perspective of a business, is really someone who is looking to give you money, which we call fuel, to build your business or move it forward, right? But it's also to any kind of stakeholder, right? If I am interested in having partners join me, I have to pitch to them something, right? I have to talk to them or get them interested. A pitch deck could be very useful for them as well. What if I'm trying to get, my parents to understand why they should give me a little bit of money, right? You can go to your mom and dad and be like, hey, mom and dad, I got a business. Give me some money. They're gonna be like, go back to school, right? But if you give them something that shows you put intentionality behind the idea, you did your research on that idea, and you have a valid way of making money or actually showing that this business idea could be viable and that you can implement it at least. Maybe you don't know exactly how you're gonna make money yet, but it seems to be a good idea to get started. You can convey that easier to your parents, and maybe they may take you a little bit more serious, right? That's one thing. So it's not just designed to be associated to investors. But we'll go ahead and give a definition to what a pitch deck is. So the pitch deck is used to quickly and effectively convey a business idea or proposal, right, to investors, clients, or partners, right? It should be very clear, concise, right, and visually engaging, right? This is very, very important. I highlighted them for a reason because we're going to go over just that. As I mentioned to those who came in a little earlier, this is a very interactive workshop. My goal is for you to take your ideas you already have and start working on it. So I don't want to just talk to you. I really need you to ask questions based on the areas that you feel like you need the most knowledge that you're missing. But also, if you have a Google Drive or you have your computer with you, go ahead and open it up, start plugging notes in there, or on the document that I gave you, go ahead and start writing down notes in each section, okay? So, first and foremost, content, right? We talked about it before. There's 2 steps to a pitch deck. First is content, second is design. And from the perspective of content, the goal is for you to grab as much of the knowledge, much of the research that you have, your knowledge that you already have, your experiences that you already have in the area of the problem that you're trying to solve, and just get it out. Grab it, put it in a Word document, wherever you need to do, collect it in your notes, grab as much information as possible with the intention to sectionize that content over time, right? So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Then the other aspect is design. If you start off with design because you're a visual person, that's also even better, right? You can start off and create, the aesthetic of a pitch deck. You have 3 icons and a couple areas where you can put text in there, and maybe that helps you gather your idea to at least organize it and structure it. That's one way to begin the process as well, okay? But what I wanted to show you some best practices around that, and there's about 5 to 6 best practices that I want to give you. I'll go over a couple of them. So the very first one is to define the goal and the target audience that you're trying to service, okay? We all are customers at some point. We all have clothes on our back. We all have shoes on our feet. We all have technology in the palm of our hands, right? So a product, a service, a technology, or you may be in school, right? Campus, it's a service, but it's also programs that you're involved in, right? There's events that you may go to. There's resources people give you, right? There's podcasts out there, knowledge transfer that's available to you. There's workshops like you have now on the partnership with Udemy, right? You can now go there and get extra things that you can't get in your class, right? So those are other ways that you can deliver value, right? So it doesn't end there, but you need to be able to understand who are you trying to deliver value to. If you are the person who has the problem, right? And you're like, man, I'm solving my own problem first because this has been my problem for a long time. I want to solve it. You just got to find out who else has that same problem, right? Is it a big problem, right? And if it is a big problem, the goal for you should be is that I want to go find out if they can tell me the problem just like I experienced the problem, right? Because if you experience the same problem the same way, or at least vicariously the same way, meaning similar challenges or similar issues, that will give you clarity. It'll give you a lot of clarity that this is something that I should really think about doing and working on, okay? The other one that I want to talk about is number 5, which is tell a story. A lot of times we forget, we get so kind of worked up on the problem we want to solve and the solution that we want to provide, yet we don't really convey it well. But you could start off with a story and get it structured to where it can be explained in a condensed way, but also in a compelling way so that people can find themselves a part of that story. So if I said, hey, I injured my knee and I want to create a better brace that's going to make sure that I can walk regularly, no one knows that I injured my knee, right? If that's something that I've experienced, I've been through the pain, I've been through the challenges, and now I found a solution for it, tell the story about how you actually came up with the idea. Maybe you were walking on the crutches and the crutches were so hard it kept hurting your armpits or whatever you want to call it, right? And then you're like, you know what? I'm just going to tie something around my knee and then I'm going to strap it across my belt and then I can just walk or whatever, right? It's a simple, weird perspective, but guess what? If that's how you started and then you're trying to get it somewhere else because everyone else has that similar problem, we never know. That little simple idea could be the inspiration needed for someone to feel compelled about what you're trying to accomplish, right? So as simple as that, these are 6 main areas that I want you guys to focus on because we're going to go through it throughout the presentation. All right, any questions up until this point? No questions, okay. So let's go through slide 1, right? Slide 1 through 5 is where we're going to do the first slide. And we'll take a little break to see about your ideas and what you're working on. Then we're going to go through slides 6 to 12, okay? So Slide 1, which is the problem, okay? As Alan said, or well, the title slide, let me take it back. You have your cover slide. Let me give a reason why this is important to even give context to. First impressions, right? First impressions. Remember when you were a freshman, first day of school, most likely someone asked you, your professor asked you, or your instructor asked you, so raise your hand, tell us about yourself. Who are you, right? Remember those days? It may not be when you were a freshman, but remember the days where you were the first one or the one in class, you had to raise your hand and say, who are you? What do you do? Right? It's your first impression, right? Most of us are a little bit shy, a little bit nervous. We probably didn't even say the real thing about who we are. We probably kind of just threw something out there, right? But in a pitch deck, it's your first chance to give me this visual representation. I don't know who you are, but if this visual captures me enough, and I have your information on there, I have a title that's there, I have your name on there, I can feel a little bit like this is going to be an interesting presentation. You gave me an image. The title represents similarity to that image, and it grabs you, right? Very, very easy. I want you to see a little bit of how we kind of build that. So key elements to a slide is to really make sure your company name is on there, one thing. And your company name in the very beginning, try not to worry about it. Your name's going to change. Isn't that right, Alan? Name changes. It changes. Even if you love the first version of it, it's going to change. I guarantee you. Now, if it's a magical moment where you just came up with a word called Google, okay. Maybe you stick with that name, right? Because it's so unique. It's not on the internet. You can't find it anywhere. It doesn't connect to your mission, your vision, or it doesn't connect to anyone else's mission or their vision, and it matches perfectly. Work with it, right? But you got to make sure that it's viable, right? If it's on the internet and you want to be called Microsoft, that's your company. Okay, really? That doesn't really work, right? It doesn't have much value. And even if it was Microsoft Plus or something like that, you've already captured where you're going to have to do a lot of marketing and branding to get your brand out there so people can see you and see your representation. So come up with something unique, but start with whatever you have and go with it. But make sure it's on there. And you have their tagline. We know what a tagline is, right? What is Nike's tagline? Huh? Just do it. Come on, y'all. Just do it, right? Just do it. We all know it. For whatever reason, it sticks in our head from generation after generation after generation, right? This tagline represents exactly what they stand for. Don't make excuses about exercise, fitness, walking, whatever. We got you. We have all the products. We have all the clothing. Just do it. No excuses, right? Find your tagline. And/or if you don't have an amazing tagline in a short, concise way, have a mission statement, right? What is, oh man, now they've changed it, never mind. Who remembers like Uber's mission statement when it first came out? You guys, yeah, it was 2014. Where were you guys in 2014 when Uber came to LA? High school, middle school, middle school. Okay. So when it first came out, it was keep hustling. Can you guys imagine? Keep hustling. Why? Because it's a hustle. You're working every day and then you get off work and you want to make a little bit more extra money. Do this, right? Go do this job. You can make $1,200 a week. They promote it, right? Keep hustling, right? I think Microsoft was innovation something. I can't remember, but everyone, which one? Maybe. But they change over time. It's not an issue, but have something that stands by you or that you stand by, right? So when people can see your name synonymous to your mission, it actually captures them as well, right? So once again, there's our key areas, but a couple key mistakes that people make is it's generic or it's boring or it's too much together, right? So what if my company's name was Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, right? What the heck? It doesn't even matter. Like no one's going to care at that point. It's intriguing, but it's too long and it doesn't make much sense because it doesn't capture much, right? So make sure you're not being very boring or generic and don't include too much information on this particular slide. It's very simple. Let it be a visual representation of what you're getting ready to see throughout the rest of the presentation, okay? So here's what it could look like. Very, very simple. right? There's a couple different perspectives. What I like to do, if you're building your pitch deck, just structure it like this. Don't even do it, put image right here, put a title there, put a line of text in the middle, and that's just a structure. Then you plug it in and fill it in, and then you start with design if you can't do design first, okay? Some people are amazing, they can do design first, but most people will go with content first, okay? If you are doing a software or technology, slide number 4 is really something you should really think about. You know, put the computer there if you're building a database management solution or a CRM system or whatever you want to do. Put an app there if you're building something like a game or whatever it may be. Put something that represents the technology advancement of what you're going to do, okay? If an image is representative, right? You want someone to see that, you're going to solve world hunger. Well, you know, don't put hungry kids on there, but find something that kind of fits that perspective, right? That'd be something to kind of grab their attention. Okay, so cover slide, very simple. Keep it simple, keep it simple. Okay, the problem slide, right? Once again, this is going to be the same format I'm going to give you because these slides I want to give to you. You have some of the information in the palm of your hands, but I need you to also have access to this later. But the format is I'm going to give you key elements that I believe are very important to each slide. I've seen thousands of decks. I wrote them myself. I've had some success in my own, right? And I've also helped others have a lot of success in their decks. So a lot of this knowledge is very relevant, but then also it's not the only information out there. There's other perspectives out there, okay? But at least you'll be able to take this perspective, match it up with what you find out there on the internet and other resources you have. Okay, so some of the key elements that I want you to make sure you mention is define your problem. It's the hardest thing for us to do sometimes is to define what problem we are trying to solve, okay? Clearly state the problem or the particular pain points that the company is going to solve, right, or address. And you can also sometimes introduce your customer at the same time as your problem, okay? All right, so think about it if you're selling t-shirts because you're trying to create a community, right, around, let's just call it some kind of sports or whatever it may be, right? You probably want to say, hey, I'm trying to solve the problem of there's no community t-shirts that we are connected, you know, as a basketball crew on campus. You know, I want to represent this group of people. Cool. How do you connect the dots, right? So the customer can be explaining the problem, but the most important thing about the problem is don't overemphasize. Get us to the core foundational problem. Sometimes we always talk about the surface problem that we all can see, but just because we can see the problem doesn't mean that's where it originates, right? So when someone's creating a medical device or something like that, they're not going to always talk about, you know, the fact that you're going to get surgery and having surgery is a problem. They're going to probably talk about what foundationally is causing the problem that needs you to have surgery, and we're going to create a device that solves that problem. Maybe we can solve it at the earliest stages or whatever it may be, or we can recognize it, right? These are things that you want to make sure are key, right? Provide evidence, right? So when you state your problem, how can you identify that? Like, so when we do research, 80% of all people do blah, 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 right? Found that research on Pew Research, right? How can you share that to make sure you validated the fact that what your statement you're making is actually true, right? And the moment that you can tell me a factual problem, you got me. Now that I know it is a true factual problem, I'm really, really intrigued to know what is your potential solution, okay? Some of the key mistakes is just being very vague about it, right? Not very clear at all. It's not specific, right? And then also, you know, focusing on the solution. Have you ever pitched or tried to share your problem with someone, but you then end up talking about the solution very quickly? Anyone ever had that issue? No? Yes? No? Had the issue a little bit? So sometimes that's what we do. We are so ready to talk about our solution that we think our solution is more important than the problem, and that's where we kind of get lost, okay? Try not to do that on this slide, and don't put problem on one side of the slide and then the solution on the other. Leave room for it to breathe. Give it its own slide, okay? And then just don't provide too much detail, right? A lot of times there's a lot of information on there. I know research is very hard to explain sometimes. So you're trying to get to the problem eventually after slide 3 maybe, but no, try our best to not put as much information, probably put more images, if anything. More images that while you're talking, I can connect the dots visually, okay? So I'm gonna show you what that may look like from a slide perspective, okay? So let's just say that there is a problem, a main problem, like we're looking at number 3 here. There's a main problem, but it has a couple key areas of focus that you're gonna focus on, that you see are sub-problems to the main problem, right? That are going to be what you're going to build out, right? You're going to build something that has this problem. 6 main areas are what causes or are affected by that problem. So that's the ecosystem of the problem, okay? Well, maybe it's just a singular problem, but 3 main subject matters, right? Subject areas. That's another way to look at it. Maybe it is a vicarious problem. Because of this, this happens, right? So number 2 can give you a perspective of before, after type of solution, okay? Try to find where your problem fits into these kind of buckets. These aren't the only buckets, but these are ways that are presented on a daily basis to investors or other key stakeholders on a daily basis from the investment world and the pitch competition world. These are similar perspectives, okay? So don't take them for granted. Find your unique way, but keep it as simple as you can. If you need to add more information, do an icon, do some information under it, and maybe put a title above the icon if you have to, right? So title, icon, information, that's okay too. If you need to have a small paragraph because you don't think 3 words can really solve that issue for you, okay, got it. But you guys know we have ChatGPT now, right? We have generative AI that's in the palm of your hands, right? So sometimes it's really, really hard for us to condense it. Just throw it in there and say, hey, try to condense this down to 3 words. See what it does. See if it actually does it for you. And if it does it for you, there's nothing wrong with that because you are just taking what you came up with. You're trying to condense it as quickly as you possibly can. That could be very valuable for you. But then, remember, you're the one who have to pitch. So if you condense it to 3 words, does those 3 words remind you of the information that you're ready to pitch, right? Okay? So more importantly, this is not always the only way, but it is definitely subsets of what we see all the time. Okay, any questions on the problem? Who, besides Alan, can tell me a problem that they are trying to solve? All right, guys, we can stand here all day, though. You're all here for a reason. So what problem do you want to solve? What problem? Use the mic real quick. Go ahead. Good job.
Thank you. Young people are generally financially clueless. So teaching young people to invest.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So young people are financially clueless for a couple of reasons. Give me one reason why you think they're financially clueless. Yes. Give me the one that you think is potentially the foundational reason, right? We know there's a lot of other things that happen. We got stuff going on, we got life going on, whatever. What is a foundational reason you think they're, that young people are financially clueless?
So should I say a reason why I think in general, or maybe like?
No, give me what you think. Give me what you, like in your core heart, like what do you think could potentially be the core reason why they're financially clueless? All right, so we're gonna leave it there, unless you have it.
Let me try something. So,
okay.
I think most young people are financially clueless because they are not taught to seek out ambition, and they're more taught to just kind of follow the herd instead of doing what they really like and finding a way to make money from it.
Okay, so what if they did get the knowledge, but they chose not to listen? What if all the knowledge was provided at the earliest stage, 8, 9, 10 years of age, right? What if it was provided, but yet it just didn't capture it? Is it because no motivation? What if they don't get it? So where does that have context?
I would say that people generally prefer the easy route of having a 9-to-5 job than they do going out and doing something that is good for everybody and also makes them money. So
But an 8-year-old is not thinking about no 9-to-5 job.
True, but I'm talking more about like a college student or a high school student that's getting into the world.
So see, people is what you said. But now your core audience of focus, right, are college students. So why are college students more prone to being or lacking the knowledge of finances, right? So if you were able to go back to that, now you're skipping all that stuff that, mom and dad didn't teach you early enough, right? Or there wasn't enough information early enough taught, right? You can forget about all that. Now you can say young adults, college students are not familiar with finances because of these particular reasons, and you can highlight them there. 1 reason, 2 reason, 3 reasons. And you can stay within the window of that, right? And now you don't have to think about anything else. It's always going to be those same 3 things until you feel like, you know what? 2 of those things are kind of the same. We're going to mesh those together, and now we're going to focus on 2 main areas, right? So when now you can speak to them, you can say, young adults, college students, right? Young adults between this age or that age, right? Because young adult can be, different for everyone depending on what you consider. Then you can say, these are the main areas I think these people are financially clueless, right? So my goal for you is to just take that same perspective. We know that we're financially clueless because there are reasons, there are true reasons, but what are the reasons that you believe they're financially clueless? Those need to lead your problem, okay? So that we can validate that, right? Because I'm probably gonna ask you about your solution a little later, just because you spoke up, okay? So thank you for speaking up though, appreciate it. Give me a round of applause. All right. So it's not that we are unable to get it, it's just sometimes we don't have the right words, right? We don't have the right words of exactly what it is. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the cool ways to really play with this right now is use, a ChatGPT, right? Or a other solution that would allow you to put words in there, whatever you want to say, and say, help me with context. Help me put context to this. Help me better explain this to a 3rd grader. Let me explain this to adults. Let me explain this to potential investors. That at least gets you to where you start to see how you can explain your problem in multiple different ways and then see which one fits better for you, okay? Say, hey, here's what I think the problem is. Condense this and give me 3 bullet points of the main core problems of this issue that I see and see what pops up. See if you resonate with it. And if you do, that gets you started. It gets you going, okay? So let's go to the next one, the solution, okay? The key areas that I felt were more important here is basically outlining it. If you say there's this core problem and these 2 subset issues that are vicariously happening because of this problem, then you should say, here's my core solution for this subset problem and this subset problem, right? You wanted to connect the dots, make sure it's clear, right? The other thing is explaining. So provide detail about how the solution will work or how it addresses the overall problem. Sometimes there are steps, right? 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 steps, right? To your solution. The how it works. We see it all the time. We go onto some kind of platform like a CRM system that you may use or a email management solution you may use. They will tell you, here's the 1st step, 2nd step, 3rd step of our solution for you. And if you like that, get the free version. If you want the other ones, first 3 steps work as well as these work, right? Get the pro version, right? They just keep adding to it because they know what the full problem is. They know what the ecosystem problem is, and they know that they can't just throw you the larger solution. You may not be able to afford it, but you probably could afford free, right? So that's why we see the freemium model as a solution to getting you interested in what can be the starting point to solving all the other vicarious problems that happens down the line, okay? So once again, in this particular slide, being too vague, right? Focusing on features, not the solution, right? So whenever apps are being built, all those people who want to build apps, right? You're always talking about this app's going to solve this problem. And here's the features, very quickly, right? But if you introduce me to too many features very quickly, and this is the new problem that I just recognized, how am I going to connect the dots? I don't know much about all these particular features, right? How about your number one, number two feature, right? How about just introducing me to the main two things that your solution is going to do, right? Telling me how it's going to work, right? Sometimes overwhelming the audience, speaking too much and too long. If you came up to me and said, hey, John, what's the problem? And I told you X is the problem, that's good, that's clear. And then you say, oh, so tell me about the solution. And I just go for 5 minutes. Imagine that for a second. You're probably going to like, man, I'm tired. Like, stop talking, please, right? But you won't say that because you're respectful people, right? But you're probably going to be like, nah, I got to go to class. Sorry, thank you, right? You're going to lose interest. And it shouldn't be like that. When you have a solution, it should be clear and distinctive, and I should feel that it connects to the problem that you said it was going to do. So why not mention the problem when you explain to me the solution? Say, well, because of that problem, here's what we're going to do about that problem. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Here's our medical device. Here's our product, our service, our technology, right? I'm going to show you a couple ways to think about it. Always, as a pro tip, visual, right? Showing pictures to help with your solution, showing processes, showing timelines. These things could be very useful for showing your solution, okay? Let's go to a visual. All right, so technology. I have a computer, I'm creating a software, and I'm going to show a screenshot of that software that I'm creating. Even if I'm not aesthetic, a designer or a UX designer or whatever it may be, I'm going to find the best imagery of what it is I'm trying to do. I'm going to connect it to the potential solution I'm going to provide, right? And then I'm going to give it a quick description, and I'm going to highlight the key point I want them to lean on, because that's what I want them to see and ask me a question about, right? Very much easy. Another one, if I talk about a main problem, I talk about 3 subset problems, I have a main solution that solves those 3 subset problems. Simple as that, okay? Once again, if you have multiple problems that happen in the ecosystem, right? Talk about the ecosystem, but know that if you tell me that you're going to solve all these problems at one time, no. Show me how this one solution impacts these other ones, and your focus is going to be on X, okay? That's a good way to make sure that I'm catering with you. I'm with you all the way through this presentation, okay? So any questions real quick on potentially how you establish the problem and the solution? Yeah, everyone's clear? Okay, so what is your solution? What's your potential solution for this financial challenge that youth have?
So I will, let's say this.
Mm-hmm.
So college students are financially illiterate because there's no one to teach them. So my solution is I can create a college class to teach them at school, or I can do an online class subscription based to teach them there. It would be helpful if something like this was required, like a quarter or a semester at a school. That could be something down the line, but I'll say that my focus is design a college class or design an online class like that.
Okay. So thinking about that solution now, we're talking students worldwide, right? Students or nationwide in the US, right? Or local. Where's your focus?
Focus is in the US first because it's different everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
I understand this one.
Absolutely. So knowing that is your potential solution, and knowing that there are already existing courses that people could take, there are online solutions that people could take, right? How could you say that yours would be different in that process, right? So your solution, it can be similar, it can be very much similar, but what is separating you? So everything you said reminds me of what is existing, but I did not hear the actual differentiation of what yours will do than all these other fragmented options that are out there, right? So give me some perspective on what you felt would be different from the existing potential solutions that are digital or in classes.
So I think the ones that already exist right now aren't really tailored to a student's experience, and they don't really, I will say, like, they don't explain it in English. It's like too difficult to digest what a lot of complicated terms mean. Like quantitative easing is a complicated term, but it's not explained in a simple way for someone to understand. It's just the courses that exist right now don't really do a good job describing these things. So what I would design is something that would actually explain them and show how they're used, and the main difference being that it's in English, so to speak. It's digestible, because it's not, you're teaching something from the ground up, as opposed to a lot of times, not a lot of times, pretty much everything that I see is really difficult to, it's really hard to read a financial textbook, a business textbook. So something that is accessible and usable to everyone and presented in a way that is also digestible.
Okay, got it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, out of everyone listening, who understands the solution? Who can convey it back in the way that he said it? Can you say exactly what he said? Someone explain to me why can't you say exactly what he said? Who wants to tell me? Why can't you say exactly what he said? Right? So once again, we talked about it. Let's go back one slide. All right? Last one, overwhelming the audience, okay? Not to put you on the spot, okay? But I need you to see this example, right? You know what it is in your heart. You know exactly what it is, but it's just a little hard to explain it, okay? It's a little hard to condense it, right? And you're not 100% on what you want to do yet, because you're there. You're trying to figure out this potential solution that you know there is a problem for sure, but we don't know what you want to do just yet on that solution. But being able to find just a way over time, taking all the knowledge and the research that you've had, and being able to just condense it and condense it and condense it to a couple sentences of exactly how you feel, how you can get me to feel that same feeling of lacking knowledge, and why lacking knowledge could create such problems for me as a youth, right? Getting me to get there is really the hardest battle. But that's why we're here. Like, that's why these classes, that's why the classes after this type of work really helps you guys focus on narrowing it down as much as you can. Myself, Shedrip, and our team are here to help you with that, okay? So I wanted to point out that example because I want you guys to feel comfortable after this quarter. These courses are going to happen for the next weeks coming forward. And so those who are going to continue to work on it, I want you guys to feel very comfortable that you can get your problem and your solution out of your head. If that's all you got, good, we can work on the rest. But if you can understand the problem you really want to solve and get that solution, that potential offering that you have in your head, get something very confident and you can boil it down in a couple of words, I want you guys to do that. So we're going to work on that too, and I'm going to give you some more resources after class to show you how to condense it down. All right, but you guys see the potential, right? The potential of visually showing me and the potential of narrowing it down into this and then stopping until I ask more questions. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more, and then give me that other level of perspective because it's already here in your head, right? But all of it in your head doesn't need to be on the presentation, okay? Any questions on the solution? Okay, let's continue on the product. So products, services, technology, events, resources, whatever it is that you're trying to bring to the market and create value for, this is also where we need to be able to understand it, right? We need to be able to feel like, you know what, I know the problem that you're solving, and I see the products already out there, and now I want to know your difference, right? Your difference, which is what we're talking about. So understanding that there is a major problem, right? And you now have a potential solution. What is it? Can you describe your product in a simple way, right? A product, okay? So let's take just your example for a second. We know college students, youth, between ages, let's say 18 and 26, lack certain knowledge or the core foundations of financial literacy to get themselves through their college years and their early adult years, right? We know that's lacking. Some people have it, some people don't. Some people will gain it because they have family members or other friends who probably can deliver knowledge to them. But because of that, we want to deliver an app, right, called Student Frugal, right? You're frugal with money. How can we show you how to be frugal, right? We're going to show you all the financial literacy through this app. And anytime you have a question, just put it in there. Hey, I made $1,000. How do I save 30%? Maybe AI could help us with that, right? Maybe it can give me a perspective. Here's my bills. List your expenses. Bam. Now, tell me how I should spend this $1,000 over a month. Boom. It gives me a plan to start off with, right? Could there be an app out there that you guys would download that if you could be able to ask this app, you know, some things about managing your finances, very quickly it prompts you some type of perspective. I have $1,000, you make $1,000 a month, and you're like, I don't want to lose this, I want to save 30% this month. How do I do that when I have these bills, these expenses, and these potential variables, right? It would be unique. There's no app out there today in the App Store. You guys don't have it on your phone right now, right? But that could be something very useful. Could there be something potential to support your idea, right? AI, right? AI could support in some way. Think about how could it support today while all of the hype is about AI and its assistance, right? That's where we are right now in the AI kind of revolution right now. We're starting to learn how this thing could assist, make things better. How could you think about what you're doing and how that could potentially support your idea, right? So that's just a little caveat, but being able to explain that my product is going to be an AI-driven solution that's going to support youth in understanding financial terms and whatever it may be that you want them to understand, right? That could be a way to explain your solution, right? But highlighting the key area, AI, boom, AI, that's it. Class, if you want to do a class, can the class reach as many students as you want it to reach, right? If it's online, it could. So now you're going to create an online program that's going to reach them, right? But how are you going to get it to them? We'll talk about that a little bit later. So showing the value, right? Explain how the product provides value to the target audience, right? The value that you're trying to display in the product is, we call it value proposition. Anyone ever heard that term, right? The value proposition, okay? How do you suppose that this product can create value? So that means you must need to know my pain points, my overall pain points, and why I'm seeking value, or how I'm already getting value from existing solutions in the market, but yet the value you're going to create is going to be better than what I already have, right? How do you explain that? Or if it's not 100% better, how do you explain it makes things easier, right? Or if it doesn't make it 100% easier, how you can explain it makes it it's cheaper, right? Or the product that you get today has bad quality, we're going to have better quality, right? So these key words that you're going to try to figure out how to analyze and talk about your product is also highly important. When Apple speaks to us, or Microsoft with their technology, or Nike with their shoes, or whatever it may be, don't we hear these kind of key words that sticks out, right? Right? Nike, the lightest shoe possible, right? Apple, the lightest computer you ever had. That's what, the Apple Air, right? Right? The smartest computer, whatever you want to say. They're always using certain key words that can emphasize the product in just a short perspective, right? If you can find that level of value, or that level of clarity, that's going to get me to understand the value, right? My MacBook Air. Why do we have a MacBook Air? Or is it a MacBook Air? MacBook Air? MacBook Air, we have the MacBook Pro, we have the MacBook, right? Like, or the Mac computer, right? All these same computers, but like, why do I need the Air? Well, because when you're walking around, you don't want to carry 12 pounds of technology with you. Here, carry this, it's 2.5 pounds, right? Still same technology, same use case, same need, but maybe I just don't really want to carry that. Maybe I just don't have a bag to carry it, right? Can help you out. You have a technology solution for you, and it's still going to cost you the same price as others, or just a little cheaper, okay? So providing too much detail and ignoring the competition in this area. So one of the main things is the competition. We can talk about that on the competition slide, But a good way to explain your product is to better explain what the competition already does and what they don't do and why your product is unique. It's just a comparison in the product valuation, but in the competitor side, you can then put emphasis on that, but you've already got me clear that you know what exists in the market, right? One of the main things is when we finally get to the market, right, we still got to compete with the 80%, I'm sorry, the 100% of those offerings that are already existing to the customer. You have to compete with them. So if you don't even do 80% what they do, you better have a really, really unique 20% difference. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for me to capture this, right? But if your unique 20% difference is so unique, now you have to be confident about your product and talk about it and explain it and market it and brand it as such. It's just a better computer. Way better than all the other ones. Lighter, cheaper, same technology, competing in the computer space, right? How do we do that? We see new phone companies pop up all the time, do we not? Right? They come and go, but they still provide you with the same type of technology, right? But some of them are just cheaper, right? What is that? Anyone knows who is the actor that did, who's the funny DC character, red and black, Deadpool? Who's that guy? Ryan Reynolds. Anyone ever see Ryan Reynolds' commercial about the cell phone company that he owns? What is it called? Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile, right? Okay, yeah. You guys ever check out their website? Who has Sprint? No one has Sprint anymore, right? They're gone. Who has T-Mobile? T-Mobile. Who has Verizon? Okay. Who has something different? What do you have? AT&T? AT&T? Okay. Which one? What is that? Oh, okay. No. What do you have different? Mint. See? You have Mint. Why do you have Mint? It's cheaper. Same. I don't know. You have to ask the Mint owner, Mint user there. Same network as T-Mobile, same access, same cellular towers access, right? Cheaper option. So who has T-Mobile again? Who's going to go look at Mint's website to identify if they want a cheaper plan? Right?
Whatever you get at that family plan is just that same thing for everyone.
Exactly. It's crazy. Now, I'll ask one last question on this particular perspective on the product. How many of you have stayed with the same carrier since you've had a cell phone? Okay. So the ones who didn't raise their hand, who switched more than twice? Who switched once? Okay, switched once. What was the reason why you switched?
It was cheaper.
It was cheaper, but you went from big name carrier to big name carrier. Who is it?
Verizon.
Verizon to who?
T-Mobile.
To T-Mobile. It was cheaper. Their job is to promote to you that it's cheaper, right? Every single time, right? During holiday season, hey, jump on this BOGO account, right? You're gonna lower your stuff by $10, $20, right? But then it ends up being an extra $20 sometime down the line. The marketing, don't get caught up in that, but you guys have to know that this is part of the product valuation. They know their stuff. They know everything about you, the customer. They know everything about what you need, what you desire, and they know how to tweak their products to best fit your needs and your desires or your wants, right? So no matter what it is, our product, our services, our technology, it's going to either service one thing clearly, our wants, our needs, our desires. And then if you service my need, can that same product or your company service my potential desires in the future? That valuation, that value is part of your value proposition. You have to speak it to life. And we need to see it not only visually, but also we need to hear it clearly and concise, okay? Once again, let's give a perspective here. So everyone knows why is a triangle the strongest shape? Anyone know? Give me perspective.
3 points on a plane, that's stable.
Okay? Stability, right? It's very hard to break a triangle when you just drop it. Very hard, right? A lot of other shapes can break depending on the actual, force being thrown down, right? But a triangle, every input is an output. So once one area gets hit, it automatically bounces it to the next one and bounces to the next one. It just continues, right? So think about your triangle offense. Everyone ever heard of a triangle offense in sports? Anyone know what that means? It's probably one of the most viable ways to get where you're trying to go. So in basketball, the triangle, you have a rectangular space, and it eventually makes somewhat of a square in each half of the court. Put a triangle inside of a square, it covers all of the points, does it not? Right? So no matter where you are, it's going to service, it's going to get there. It's just about how fast you move it to one side and what opens up on the other side, right? So think of why that's been so used. With the Lakers back in the day during their reign of championships, it was about their triangle offense. Other people just didn't understand it. So they had lots of championships off of that perspective. Every input's an output. So once each motion happens, it's continuous, okay? So think about it from the perspective of your product. How are you servicing this? And it affects that, and it affects this, and we got you the whole way through, okay? Think about Apple. They know they need you to give you a cell phone. Before wearable devices, cell phone, computer, and accessories for those things, right? All technology companies have similar methodologies. They're going to give you the main technology, right? They're going to show you why another one that integrates with it is really good, and they're going to show you all the little accessories that you may need to be more efficient, more effective, right, along the way. And that's their little triangular offense. They got you. They're in the ecosystem, but they needed you to capture one of them, right? One of those main areas of your needs, your wants, your desires. Same thing. Needs, wants, desires, every point of the triangle. If you can look at me as your potential customer and you're able to tell me that your product serves my needs, right? And potentially because of my needs, you have another option or a feature set that will help me feel more comfortable. So there's for my desires. Or because you're going to listen to my feedback, let's think about this for a second. Amazon feedback, their whole feedback channel, right? We're going to listen to my feedback and give me better products down the line, right? So Amazon doesn't, well, before they had Amazon Basics, they didn't own their own products, did they? They push your products, they push your products, they push my products through a chain, right? Eventually they offer theirs at a cheaper rate, similar quality, right? But they pushed the products, right? And then we gave feedback as consumers. Why they have the best feedback solution out there, right? You guys know, like what was the whole purpose behind that? Anyone can guess? Which one? Ranking system. Ranking mattered so much that it was a part of the customer discovery. If all of us say that this potential product is no good, take it off the shelves, right? If we go into a big box store and no one gives feedback, let's say Walmart, and none of us give feedback, but this product sits on the store shelves all the time, it never moves, they're spending money, they're losing shelf space, and that company is spending a lot of money to keep it on the shelf. Therefore, that's inventory that continues to eat my revenue or eat my cash flow, right? Or eat my savings, right? So no one ever knows. But that rating system gets you to the best version of what you have, right? So think about right now with ChatGPT, right? They released it as a research project. They released this amazing technology to us as a research project. So each and every single one of us can get it for free. But what did they ask from us? If something wrong, when we look at there's a thumbs up, there's a thumb down. And if you give a thumbs up, it prompts you to fill out a particular survey. What was it good about? Or what was it good? If you put a thumbs down, what was bad about it? The more feedback we give to them, the better they make this product, right? So it's very much that the product you can do more than just have a product. You can do more than have your own products. You can actually do better helping other people with their products. So that could be a potential service that you offer, okay? Being able to look at these different options is what I want you guys to see. There's many different ways to explain how your product properly services the problem I have first, but also my wants, my needs, and my desires. So the problem that I have, there's a need, right? Things that I want and the things that I desire, you guys can figure that one out as a feature set, right? Or an extra additive to your product. But you gotta solve my need problem, right? Because I already have shoes, I already have clothes. If you're gonna sell shoes and clothes, what makes me want yours? I already have shoes, I already have clothes, right? Give me perspective. Your product here and your description, that's going to really open up everyone's minds. Anyone question on the product? Any more questions at all? Any questions? Okay. We're going to continue to move on. All right, to the market opportunity. So now we know our problem. We know our the solution we want to provide. We've got a clear understanding of the product that we want to bring to the market. Now we have to identify who is that market. Okay, right? So let's just take an example of you're marketing a product toward kids' education, right? Who is the real customer? Anyone have an idea? Who's the real customer? You're trying to create a kids' education product. Who's the customer? Which one? The parents, right? The parents. The end user is the kid. But the kid can't make a decision, a financial decision. Yes, sir? You say family? Yeah. Well, remember, family, mom, dad, whoever is the decision maker financially to receive the product. So yes, they will be your customer. Family?
No, like the kid, like suppose like ask something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Decision maker on the desire, the need, right? But as far as purchasing your product, putting my credit card on file and having me on their monthly subscription, that's me, that's mom, that's dad, right? So at the end of the day, you are showing that you have to commit to that your product is going to focus on this particular demographic, but who are you selling it to, right? So let's think about your pitch deck, right? You are trying to get me on your team. So you want to show me your pitch deck, but your pitch deck is really catering toward investors. I'm not going to invest in your business. I have no money. I got no money. But I have skill. I would love to be catered to by showing me why would a skill that I have be valuable to you. You gave me a 2-page pitch deck that says, here's my needs. Here's why I think you're an amazing person who can help solve that because of these skills you have. Boom, I'm interested. But the moment you start talking to me about valuations and blah, 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 and all this investor stuff, I'm not going to understand. So be very clear about who you're speaking to and who you're trying to get money from, okay, or get something from, right? And we say money because at the end of the day, all business is strictly money, right? We're not trying to say money is the main focus, but it's definitely something that you have to focus on. How are you going to get paid and how are you going to do that repeatedly from this demographic of people, okay? So once again, the key elements that I want you guys to focus on is identifying a target market, which we consider is a clearly identified target market for the product or service. This may include their demographic information, right? Where they live, how much money they the psychographics as well, right? You know, what do they do on a daily basis, right? Their location, their income. Then define the market size. We're going to talk about the market size, the TAM, SAM, and SOM. This is these terms are challenging, but at the same time, we're going to break it down later. You probably see it inside your sheet that I gave you. But you talk about the big market, the medium market. Excuse me, one second. The big market, the overall market. The next market under that is the potential serviceable market, right? Right? And then you have your SOM, right? Which is going to be your obtainable market, the people that you can obtain right now, right? Think of global, national, local. Think of national, regional, local, right? Think of state, city, town. Like who are you really going to be able to get to, okay? So they say target because you want to draw the target, right? Circle, circle, circle. Try to get into the middle of that circle. So let's put in perspective. This is a way, and we're not going to go in detail on how you get this just yet because it takes a lot of energy and time for every single business. But the goal is that there is a bigger market out there if you have a problem that is big, right? There's a bigger market out there. Sometimes you're solving a local problem. It doesn't affect anyone. An Irvine problem is not going to affect, let's just call it a Los Angeles problem, right? If there is a problem, together, that could be your middle, your serviceable, addressable market, the one you can address this problem to, and see if your product can solve their issue, right? When we start thinking global, some of you will create global businesses from day one. You will have something that can impact people from day one around the world. Can you understand your global market opportunity, right? Understanding how many people we have in the United States. Who can tell me how many people from a census standpoint do we have in the United States? We kind of hover around the same number all the time. Perfect, 330 million. We kind of hover around there, a little bit lower, higher, whatever it may be. But that's basically what we have. What about China? How many people in China? How many? How many? 1.2? I don't know, so I'm trusting you. All right? Right? So thinking about that, right? Think about TikTok. Why did TikTok stay in China, right? You know, they have their abilities to do their relationships with the U.S. and things like that, and that's always on the news, right? The president's administration doesn't want TikTok over here anymore, blah, 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 because of their way of doing business. But think about it. They have 1 billion people. Get 500 million people on this app, and how amazing can it be, right? That's 1 billion people, so it's challenging, but it happens. We see it over and over and over. We saw it with ChatGPT. How did ChatGPT in 1 week gain how many people? Anyone remember the number? 1 week? How many people? I think it was 1 million people. Don't quote me on that one, but
I think they were working on it for like 5 or 10 years now.
well, forget about what they're working on. When they released it to us, in less than a week or so, right? And I double checked this, right? But I think it was like 1 million people. They were like the fastest to 1 million people or something like that, right? That's pretty amazing. But not everything is going to be like that. But so you have to identify kind of where your target market really is, the one that you're going to go after. Sometimes when we're creating mobile apps, you know, we know that usership is important, right? How many users do you have daily on your app is really, really important. Think of Instagram. How many of us are on Instagram at least once a day? And I don't even use social media, but I'm on Instagram to go look at other stuff. But I don't actually post anything. You can find me out there, nothing, 0, all right? But I'm on there at least once a day, all right? So did all of us raise our hand? Yeah? Yeah? Who didn't raise their hand? Who's not on Instagram? Yeah? Good job. You guys can manage your attention very well, very well. All right, but that's a good majority, right? Let's just say out of 100% of us, let's just say 80% of us are on this app every day. That's usership that creates value. Does Instagram make money from you and I? No, right? So someone else sees their platform as value and they're willing to give them money. That's crazy, right? So access is also important. So being able to know that you have access, so say that you're building a small business and you've been in the community for 15 years and you're building a small business in your community that you've been here, you know everybody, the mailman, you know the eyeglass people in every neighborhood, whatever it may be, you know all the doctors. You have a controlled audience. You can grow from there because all of those people that you know, they know 10 people, then they can tell 10 more people, right? You can grow local, very small, to expand it outwards. So you don't always have to think of the TAM, the total addressable market. You don't have to always think of that from the beginning. Think about where you would know you have the most access, which is the obtainable market. You think you can obtain them, okay? So we'll talk deeper on this in other classes, but this is also one of the most confusing slides whenever you see an investor deck or whatever it may be, because people just don't know their market. It's almost like you guys ever watched Shark Tank? And what does Mr. Wonderful care about? Money, right? But he equates that into know your numbers. Don't come over here talking your business is worth X, Y, and Z because I can evaluate your business in 2 seconds because he's been there, done that over and over and over again. So he cares about the numbers. Some other people care about the market early on, but I guarantee you, either one of those things you don't know about, confused, you're going to be very hard to get people on board. We don't know who you're going to go after, and you don't know how you're going to make money. So do you have a business? Not yet. You have an idea that can translate into a business, but we have to know, to create a business, who are you servicing, how are you making money from them, and is it repeatable, okay? So we have a little quick break. The other slides are going to be, oh yeah, one more copy? Yep. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to print this out for him. Questions, please, questions. Okay, it's in the printer. Okay, we can get that. What size? Large? Okay, we'll get it after this, okay?
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so are we addressing like every kind of market in like any pitch deck? Like
Every kind of market?
yeah, like the attainable, the
You will want to know the potential big market, right? If you have a problem that you feel has a large solution, right now, if you just wanted to create a floral, company and you wanted to produce floral flowers within Irvine, maybe it just covers Irvine. Maybe that's all you want to do. But if you have an idea of this big floral company like 1-800-Flowers, right? Then you have a bigger vision that reaches more people, right? So you have to explain that larger vision, right? And so that means your obtainable market is anyone in America who wants flowers.
okay, so that size varies.
That size varies up and down, but it could be kind of stationary when you know the numbers of the U.S., 330 million people. So out of that 330 million people, how many people are married and have relationships or have loved ones, all the reasons why you sell flowers, you would want to know the potential largest market, right? So that if your business model has the ability to reach that at least you have clarity that this exists and it's reachable, or it's the total market you could reach, but you got to get there. So then you have the serviceable, addressable market. So that's the market you're going to address. So you can't address everybody. You're going to address, let's just call it California. All people in California. So we have to figure out what's the number of people in California, right? So how do you do that? You go to the state government.com and .gov, and then you get that large number. And now you know, let's just call it 25 million people. I have no idea. I think Los Angeles has 30 million people, but let's just say 20 million people, right? So now that's your serviceable, addressable market. We're going to address California. But because California is also big and we can't go from northern to southern so quickly, we're going to only focus on Southern California. That's going to be the ones we're going to go after. You see what I'm saying? That's your serviceable, obtainable market. Okay? I can obtain this group. And after I obtain them, we're going to reach up to our addressable, all of California. And then we're going to go, let's just call it regional. We're going to do all of Western Hemisphere of the US, right? And then we're going to go national. We're going to go all the way through the US because we built a business model to do so. Okay? Being able to show that is viable. It's very valuable when you're looking at, I want investor dollars. I want, large venture capital dollars. How can you show large market opportunity, which potentially creates large return, right? So we'll talk deeper on that like in other classes, but that's where you have to go. You have to start there to be clear that your product and the problem actually is a problem of the larger market, right? And let's just say one more thing. If a hospital services, 8,000 patients and they have this issue, whatever this one issue is, but other hospitals don't do it, right, within your region, and not a lot of hospitals do it throughout the United States, then you're going to have to say, okay, well, there's 10 hospitals across the United States that services these types of issues. I have a medical device for this, and that's my demographic. Those 10 are your total. Those 5 are regional. Those 2 are in California. You see what I'm saying? That's how you want to make it as simple as possible. You're welcome. All right, guys, just so I don't keep you here too long, yours is in a printer, if you go to the printer, yeah. So the other slides, there's a lot of detail on a couple of these slides, but we're gonna go over them somewhat quickly because you have everything in your hand. The financials, not a lot of you are at that point where financials actually matter because in reality, they change at different levels of your deck. Right now in your earliest deck, you don't need to think about a 5-year pro forma of your actual company, but we're gonna be able to talk about and show you what that actually may look like, okay? So slide number 6 will be your competition, okay? The two main things I want you to get out of this competition slide is that you don't have to put everybody you think is potentially your competitor on your competition slide. There are a couple of slides I'm going to show you that are used to be used a lot and then now they're not so used. But the one way that you can make it very simple is break your competitors into 2 areas: direct competitors and indirect competitors, okay? Direct competitors and indirect competitors, okay? Direct competitors are those who are already in the market servicing the consumer with a potential offering that you think has problems. Either it's too expensive, too bad quality, whatever it may be that you feel that the existing product does not offer to your customer and you're gonna do so. They're your direct competitors because the moment that you entered the market and they see your little 20% difference, that means they potentially have the means to do what you do very quickly. They have the human capital, they have the financial capital to do what you do. And if your stuff is so amazing and they probably like it, they may look at you for, let's call it a year and see how you enter the market and penetrate your 20% difference. And let's see if that's valuable. They may look at you and say, great, you know what, we might want to buy you up because you're too different and you're a competitor and we're going to buy you up. So why do you think Microsoft gives ChatGPT a couple $1 billion valuation, right? You're too powerful. We like you. We think you can do amazing stuff by yourself, but we can bring you internal because we have some amazing stuff too. So before they even had a full year in business, which maybe that was never their intention, right? Maybe that was never their intention to do that. Maybe they always wanted to be bought out, right? But say that they did not want to be bought out and we're all on the same ChatGPT team, and we're like, man, we just reached 1 million people in a week. Doesn't that show a lot of value? If we do that every week, how many millions of dollars, how many millions of people can we reach, right? Shouldn't that give us some kind of incentive in our mind as a team that we must be very valuable, right? We must be creating something that's potentially valuable to lots of people. So maybe the team didn't think about that. Maybe they didn't care about that, right? And they needed to figure out a little revenue model. In the beginning, it's a research project, but they figured out their revenue model, did they not? $20. $20. So someone doing a calculator, $20 times 1 million people. Someone do that real quickly for me. What is that? It's in your head. $20 million, right? Okay? That's a lot of money. What if you do that times getting 1 million people a week, 365 days? That's a lot of money, right? So what if you're like, you know what, I don't want your money, Microsoft. I'm good, right? Or you can see Microsoft as a partner. Sometimes we go and we're like, that's our direct competitor, right? What if they're a better partner? What if you can look at what value they need? And if you're creating something so amazing and they have the human capital, they have the finance capital, and you are just as you're creating enough value, why not become a partner with your potential direct competitor, right? That's okay. A lot of companies do that, right? So that's your direct competitors, the ones who can do what you do like that. And they already service your market, okay, with an offering. Your indirect competitors are those who potentially are in the market, but they do something completely different than what you want to do, okay? Let's think about a potential indirect competitor. Let's think about someone who wants to create a mobile app to help college students get access to food at a cheaper rate, right? College students, you don't have a lot of money in the world, but you have money to eat, right? So we want to find a better way to service you as college students. Well, you have Uber Eats, right? You have Grubhub, you have Postmates, all those things are out there that service you, but they don't focus on college students particularly, right? So they're not necessarily caring to focus on the niche demographic. They want everyone, right? But what if you created something that really catered to college students nationally, and you were able to make it cheaper, better, quicker, whatever it may be, right? Postmates is not going to just change their model and be like, oh, let's go get college students, because college students are always replenishing. Freshmen every year, there's always new people coming. That's a good market opportunity. That's a good viable, niche market, but they're not going to change their business model, right? So they may learn from you, and then they may offer, let's just call it 2 years later, they may offer, college student discounts that match what you offer, right? Use this code or whatever on Postmates, and you're going to get X discount, and pretty much that's your business model. They didn't have to do much because they don't care. They're very much in your market, but they're not going to do what you do, but they could do what you do. But at the same time, they're not just going to switch. They can't, right? So the indirect part of that is that they have the opportunity to watch you, learn from you, and then try to implement it, right? And I'm going to start a startup watching you enter, and then you fail at certain things, and then I learn from it. I'm watching, I see you doing it. And then as you start to gain traction and I see your potential failures, your previous failures, I create another app that does just a little bit things different. And I come to the same campus as you are, to service the same college students you do. You never saw me coming, right? But I saw you and I was watching. I'm very much indirect, right? You don't know I exist, right? So thinking about how to split it up is very, very important. That's also about your market analysis, being able to identify at least 3 to 5 of each of those, right? Think about your direct, who's your potential direct, who's your indirect. Try to get those and identify why are they not able to service your market the way that you're going to service your market, right? So talk about them in a good way. They do these things great, but yet they don't do this, right? You don't have to, bash them and talk about how bad they are, or talk about how, they're not credible or whatever it may be. Just talk about what they don't do and why you are the right company to do just that, okay? So a good way to look at your competitors, there's a couple different ways. Here is one of the more popular ways. We call it the check in the box, the comparable model. So sometimes we can see Apple, Microsoft, my company, and IBM. Well, how are you going to put the market share leaders right next to you as if you're going to be much better than them? Right? They're the market share leaders. So you have to find a unique difference, unless you have this amazing difference. But think about Airbnb. Who do you think Airbnb put next to them? Right? You have many companies who offer, places to stay, right? Timeshares. At some point, you have bread and breakfasts that are all over the place, right? But they were thinking about the everyday homeowner in their extra spare room. Who had that market, right? So do they really have a direct competitor that was really, really owning the market? Not necessarily. So they wanted to service the market. They wanted to get at least 20% of the market, or I think 2% of the market, 2% of the total addressable market. They wanted to get that in the first 5 years. They got that in less than 2. Less than 2. Because there wasn't a true direct competitor. So you wouldn't line them up just because they are amazing companies. You wouldn't line them up, right? So a better way you would do is something like this. Most of the companies do this. Some of the other companies do that, but we do those things too, and we have this unique difference, right? So the Venn diagram, very useful. Pointing out the other areas where our competition, our sustainable competitive advantage, your competitive advantage, right? Yes, they do amazing stuff, but here is our advantage. This is how we are going to compete. We're going to compete this way, better price. This way, quicker access. This way, better quality. Done. And as long as you can validate that, back it up, simple. That's how simple it is, okay? The one that I don't like very much is the quadrant, but it's still useful in many different ways depending on your business model. But the one way to look at it is our product is unique and doesn't have direct competitors. It has many different people and they fall into these different quadrants, right? No true direct, but many different fragmented offerings, right? So in your particular case, you have courses, you have campuses, you have gurus, you have parents, you have schools, you have all those other people, but they don't service them the way that you feel you can service them, right? This could be a good market if you so have a true competitive advantage that completely separates you out of the quadrants. You don't fit in the box, okay? Any questions on the competition slide? All right. So the traction slide is when you do gain traction. The reason why I wanted to show you guys this one versus not showing you is because the traction slide, the traction slide holds value when you have proven that the market says they like you. The market says they will give you money for what you are offering, right? A little bit of traction, or they will take advantage of what you are providing as a service or whatever it may be. You have the attention of the market and you have their hearts or their money, okay? So in this area, a lot of things, metrics is important to show here, some level of validation, So say that you did something really amazing and 35 people were like, I love what you're providing. Hey, can I quote you on that? Can I quote you on that? Can I quote you on that? Can I quote you on that, right? Get 30 quotes. That's useful. Very, very useful. It's early, but guess what? Those quotes are not only going to be something that you can lean on, that people are telling you that they actually like it, but if you're telling me and I want to join your team and I'm a partner and I have a skill set to bring value to you, you can say, hey, look, we've done this. Our work is really working. Look how many people say they actually like what we are offering. Join us, and with your skills, we can get more people. That's a cool little pitch to me, right? Now you show me some validation. I feel very comfortable trying to join you. If I'm an investor, I should feel very comfortable. Hey, over the last 6 months, we were able to get 330,000 people on our app, and here's how we did it. Wow, that's a lot of traction. I like that. Tell me how you're going to continue to do that. Show me how that's going to be repeatable and investable. Give me perspective so I can give you my money, right? So showing and making sure that the proper traction that you care about for your company is validated and is out there and not letting it linger is very important. So you guys know what we call social proof. You ever heard social proof, the term? Right? It's just social media, people validate you, right? So on social media, when people have the check mark next to the name on Instagram or whatever you want to call it, or the other thing on Twitter or whatever it may be, they're validated, right? And what that means is they're not just a regular person on the platform doing regular things. They create value for themselves, for others, and for the company that they're actually using the product on, right? They have some level of validation that they're not just regular. Right? Even something as simple as that is a lot of traction. So if you are in the position where you can show traction at the earlier stage, do that, right? Some of the mistakes here is basically ignoring some of your negative metrics, right? Now this kind of feels a little awkward when I say don't ignore your negative metrics, but what if you had a negative metrics and then you actually superseded them? Isn't it important to tell me as an investor that, hey, we went through some challenges, but guess what? We learned from it, and here's what we were able to do. Don't ignore it and act like it didn't matter. It did matter. It mattered towards your traction of your company, okay? The challenges you went through are also part of the value of who you are becoming, okay? So that also matters. Here's a couple ways to show that. From a financial standpoint, we made this much money this year, and then we went that way. We didn't go back, right? We didn't go down. We didn't have the rocky road. We were able to continue growth, right? That just shows growth. It's kind of challenging because most people don't reach this particular status, but think about it from the perspective of what we see today. Like I said, this whole chat DTP scenario, have they lost numbers per se? Maybe, but they have continued to rise with numbers, right? And so you can show this continuous growth, and that is how you get valuation on your company. And that's why Microsoft saw this continuous hockey stick, and they're like, oh, wow, you did this in a week? You're probably going to do this for like 20 years. And they kind of created this valuation and were able to provide the things that they needed, which was fuel and technology and a platform to continue to implement, right? Another area that I feel is really good is if you're an app. Once again, I have 5,000 users. On my website, I have 4.8 reviews, right? Over 500 people reviewed my product, right? You guys know of a company called Product Hunt, right? Product Hunt, look up Product Hunt. You got a new product out there that you want people to validate and test? Guess what? Put it on Product Hunt. Consumers will tell you if they like it or not. If you go viral on Product Hunt, most likely you have created a valuable business model. That's what Product Hunt was designed for, right? Think of crowdfunding. Why is crowdfunding so popular? Put it on Kickstarter, community will tell you if they like it or not, right? The crowd will tell you if they like it. If the crowd tells you they like it, you win the crowd, you win the war, right? So finding any way you can to show your validation. What if you have partners, people who are willing to work with you if you were to get to a certain stage? They're willing to work with you, and they've already said they will. They raised their hand. Put them on there. Show that you have traction in some form, some way, right? Very, very much important. So everyone's traction will be different, but it's your job to talk about yourself just a little bit more. Give a little bit of validation of who you are today and where you're going and what you just did over this time period. That's very good, okay? Any questions on traction? Okay. So business model, once again, revenue. How do you make money? How do you operate effectively to do what you do on a daily basis, repeatedly, okay? So the key areas in the revenue model is strictly focused on, the business model is strictly focused on how do you make money? What does it cost for you to make money, right? And what your overall value proposition is to the market and the consumers who want your product, right? So once again, revenue model, how do you make money? Cost structure, what does it cost you to make money? And the value proposition, what are you offering the people to make money? That is your business model, okay? And on paper, if you can do all of that on paper and it makes sense and you can talk to 10, 20 people and everyone else is like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, okay, then you feel like you have something that you now could take that idea, connect it to a business model, and now go test that business model, okay? So when people go into beta, right, beta testing of their mobile app, their software, their whatever, they go into this perspective knowing that, hey, we feel very comfortable with our abilities to generate traffic within our company, and here's what we're going to go to market with right now to test, just to test it. And then they're like, you know what, they get back, the feedback says, this is amazing, this is great, we want this now, we want it, when are you going to offer it? Now you have something to go to market with. You need a proper business model to go to market with, okay? So in the areas that people make mistakes in is ignoring potential scalability. We talked about like the app, or talked about when you talk about the market, maybe you only want to service Irvine. But is that the only thing on your mind? If that's the only thing on your mind, maybe I'm not the right investor for you, right? But if you're trying to service the nation, every state, because you have a business model that can do so and make it repeatable, wow, talk about that from day one. Don't minimize your business model just because you're new to this opportunity or new to this, getting this idea off the ground. What is potentially scalable in this business model, right? We talked earlier to this young gentleman about, okay, you want to help people with financial literacy? How can you use AI to help people, right? If you can show me that you can introduce AI to solve the same problem, and AI is the next wave of technology that's going to be here for a few years, right? Show me how you do that. Show me how that's investable, right? So the other thing is failure to actually meet the needs. So sometimes we are building solutions, but to what problem, right? We're not really truly servicing their needs. We're kind of just making a lot of money off of them, right? How many products out there really don't solve people's needs? They're just making a lot of money, right? Think of all the e-commerce products out there that really are just cheap products, but they're out there competing against the other products, and you have 50,000 people buying that cheap product, and it breaks in 2 weeks, right? Think about that happens on a daily basis with this type of products, right? They're out there. Do they really service the need? No, they service people's wants and desires more than anything, and that's not always feasible for long-term growth or scalability. It needs to be repeatable. The reason why we always buy clothes, because we grow or we desire something new. So either you're going to build a company that fits people's desires and service their future thoughts and their future visions by being a forward-thinking designer or whatever it may be, or you're going to service their need, people who need clothes because they're changing perspective, changing weight, changing height, changing size, whatever it may be. So baby clothes are always an amazing product, right? If you get me early and I like your product, it's cheap, it's good quality, and you can be with my kid all the way until they're in high school, I probably stick with your brand, right? Potentially. But at least that's where it's always a really cool thing to grow with your customer, right? So failing to explain that you're going to meet their needs and show that you truly meet their needs, it doesn't become investable, okay? So a couple ways to kind of show that, right? We charge X number of dollars per our offering and $500 for our exclusive. Cool. You make money in 2 different ways. $50 here, $500 here. How much do you do it here? Because the $500 may not be scalable, but the $50 one is repeatable. People paying this every single month, But the $500 people, maybe I only get 200 of them every quarter, right? Not repeatable, but it matches my growth rate because of the dollar value, right? Excuse me. What else is valuable here? We talk about the freemium model or the low price to the enterprise type model. Open up for free, keep it for, let's call it 17 days, 14 days. Then you're into a trial period, or you're in your trial period, and then you get into your monthly payment, right? Think about Notion. Anyone ever use Notion? Yeah? It's free for a certain amount of use, and then $8 a month, right? All this technology, $8 a month, great. Anyone have Apple Music? Anyone have Spotify? Spotify free? You have a free version, but if you want no commercials, right? Or whatever you want to call it, no ads, then switch up to the next level, right? These type of things are where you guys have to think like, maybe there are different levels to me making money. Maybe I don't just make money one way. Maybe I have a couple ways. Maybe I have a program. Maybe I have a downloadable resource. Maybe I have a service that I offer. Think about it. Don't limit yourself if there are opportunities in the controllable business model you have, okay? All right. The 2 last couple slides I'm going to go over quickly just to give you perspective because they're not as relevant. But the financial slides, we're going to have another class on financials. But what we do here is to be able to make sure that if you do have something that you feel is be able to penetrate the market, access your consumer demographic, your target market, and they're willing to pay you, how can you prove to me from a financial standpoint that this is viable? It's real. Show me how you're going to do it and make it repeatable year 1, year 2, year 3, and beyond. So these slides change all the time. And in the beginning, you don't need to focus on it as much because it's not relevant to your development just yet. But it is relevant for you to practice on and adjust and see where you could be. So if you have a product that is $50 and you are able to service people, 10,000 of them year 1, 30,000 of them year 2, and then somehow it spikes up to 100,000 people year 3, it needs to make sense. Financially, it needs to make sense in a feasible business model way, okay? So what that would look like here, well, let me first say one thing, is the common mistakes that we see here is just lack of context. How did you go from 10,000 to 300,000? How did that happen in sales, in people, in users? And how did you go from one SKU of a product to 50 SKUs of a product. Like, we have to figure this out. How can you make this make sense? We will need to know. We really need to know. So don't have lack of context. Be able to provide numbers into assumptions, into your methodologies of how you actually do what you do, and don't lie to yourself, right? Sometimes it's easy to put fake numbers there just to mess around, but if you lead with these type of fake numbers, it's going to be recognized, right, from those who could potentially be stakeholders in your organization. Okay, so boring slides, boring slides, right? Financials are always tough, so that's why we need another class for that, okay? But this is kind of the perspective of what it could show, what you could show to validate your ability to prove your company is financially feasible. Revenue, how much you can make, how much does it cost for you to make, right? And where does that money come from, right? Who does it come from? That's all you really need to break down in these areas. You have your fixed expenses, you have your variable expenses, right? Things that change all the time, things that stay the same. Every single month you're paying this, okay? Can you identify what that looks like in your business? One of the best ways to do that is find a business that's similar to yours. And if it's a big company, they have to report to the SEC all the time. You guys know what the SEC is? Security Exchange Commission, where every business that operates submits a report to them, right? So that we know how many industries we have in the US, how many businesses within that industry we have, right? That needs to be reported so we understand how we operate as a country. So that knowledge is out there. These reports are out there. They do them quarterly and they do them annually. Go find the company that looks similar to yours or that operates similar at a high level. And if they're a public company, this information is public. You can find it on their website, at the bottom of their website under investor reports, or you can find it on the SEC inside their database, okay? So we'll talk about this on a different program or a different workshop and go deep dive, okay? The team slide, simple. I hate to say simple, but it is simple. Who are you? Why are you the right founder? And why is this the right team to bring this business to life, okay? What's your credibility? What's your skill set that you bring to the table? If everyone does the same thing, that means everyone's the same person and no one's really needed because we don't need anyone else, right? Everyone's going to do everything. That doesn't make sense. Who does what? And why are they the right person to do that, okay? So common mistakes we find here, too much focus on one individual. You want investment, you better be an amazing one-man team, one-woman team if you want investment for being a one person. You might want to switch that up because guess what? It doesn't happen very often. It's like the 1%ers of the 1%ers of the 1%ers who go down that line, okay? So everyone else, who's your team? Talk about them. Validate them more than you validate yourself. Because if you're leading that team and you can validate that your team is the right people, then I can trust that you built the right team. I should be able to trust that you will lead that right team, right? You're the visionary, you're the creator of the product, but you know you're not the smartest in every aspect of the business. How did you hire or bring on the right people in those right areas? Show their value, okay? So here's a good way to look at it. There's multiple ways to throw it. Right now, you don't need C-level and junior level executive members on your team. Call yourself the CEO if you want to, but you're the CEO of what, right? Explain who you are, what you do. Sometimes you may need to put a C-level title just for the fact that your business model is going to require that. You're in a technology company. Technology companies are structured in a way where potentially you're going to be a public company or maybe you're going to be a high growth company. Yes, you need C-level positions at some point. But today you're not in that position, but you can represent yourself as the founder of the company. Putting the CEO on a startup is kind of tough. You're the founder. You earn a CEO position by building and becoming the CEO of a company, right? It's just like becoming a startup founder to becoming a business owner to becoming a potential, exiter of a company or become a CEO or whatever you want to be. Levels up. Everything's a level up, okay? So be okay representing yourself where you are, but show why you are the right person, okay? If you are a solo person on your team right now, just explain. I know who I need. Here's the people I need. Here's why I'm currently solo, because I wanted to build this business model and my vision. And then I wanted to go get my team, and I'm working on that right now, right? Here's who I need. I need a CMO. I need a person who's great at marketing. I need a person great at sales, whatever. List it so that people know that you know who you need and you're not clueless, right? If you were a CEO of everything, investors run away, okay? Actually, if someone wants you to join their team and they do everything, run away, okay? Because you ain't gonna have nothing to do, right? If they don't know what you can bring as value, very tough, okay? So at least you can identify these particular ways to show value, give a little bit of perspective, bullet points, not a big paragraphs, bullet points. One person should not have a 5, 10 bullet points and the other people have one. Never happen. Keep it as even as you possibly can. Show solidarity amongst the team. Diversity matters within your teams, right? Men, women, different races. Think about how that looks across the other table, right? It's very, very important. But don't forget about your team, okay? The last one that we're going to go over is the why now. So explaining your business model, why now? Like, what if you create something truly amazing right now? How do you explain why now, right? Urgency. What if you've been working on this idea for 6 months, you put a lot of energy, blood, sweat, and tears, and you have a business model that's viable, people are ready to purchase the product, and you just need investment. If you can show me all the other things are on point, but you can't really give me that urgency, I'm just going to be the investor that I am, and I'm going to be on my own little timeline. But if you can explain to me, if I don't invest now, someone else is going to do it. First, I'm going to miss opportunity. Second, someone else that's already existing in the market is going to find this opportunity and maximize it. And then we have competitors. But you, investor, you can be the one who helps me get there now to execute, learn, get feedback, and create more value for you as a stakeholder, more value for me as the company owner in our company, and then more value for the people who need our product, services, or technology, right? Explaining why now. So you got to get yourself to understand why now. Otherwise, why would I invest, right? Or why would I need to join you? Or why should I care, right? Getting everyone else to understand is important. So don't be vague, don't be generic. Be as specific as you can. Show timing and urgency, and understand the market, right? So if the market's not doing what you're doing at all, literally they don't have nothing out there, urgency. Make sure you make that very clear, okay? So use a little bit of storytelling here, very important. Draft the story, a quick one, not a long, outlandish one, but getting it clear. One way to do that is being able to paint the picture a lot better. You know, this is an example, right? In this time period, you know, our product is will be the number one tool. And here's why it will be the number one tool, right? Show me that. Give me perspective. Give me 1, 2, 3, 4 different perspectives, right? Maybe you're explaining to me the percentage of people we're going to impact, the amount of money that we're going to make, and the amount we said impact, money, and how quickly we can create that impact, right? Show me other ways where I can feel comfortable jumping into and feeling like I want to join you on this mission, right? First mover advantage. Sometimes you may be the first mover advantage, and that's what I mean by saying, hey, now, we want to be the first movers in the market. Everyone else has something going on, but we want to be the first ones in this market. Explaining that is highly important. Okay, guys. So, even though I said the last, one more, and it's just to ask, what are you asking money for? What do you want? What do you want from partners? Why would I want to join you? Why do you need my money? Why do you need my resources? Why do you need my partnership? What is your ask? Every ask is different. Everybody in this room, your ask is going to be different, but every business model is different as well. So the ask has to be very clear. If you're like, I need money, I need people, I need this and I need that, well, you need everything. So go figure it out. I can't help you with everything, but I can probably help you with something. So who am I? who are you, and why do I need to, why would you need something from me, and can you make it very clear? Very, very simple, right? I want to be your friend. Well, why do you want to be my friend, right? So we don't ever just take on people. I want to be your friend. No, you don't know me. Why do you want to be? You have to ask. You have to tell me why. Well, because you're a smart person. I saw you in class a couple days ago. You asked some amazing questions. I think you are a cool person. I also like these things that you talked about. Oh, okay. Now you know a little bit about this, and I can feel a little bit connected, and I can feel like I can be your friend, right? So explaining in a way that is concise, understandable, and it makes sense, right? That's it, guys. Ask. So the visuals of that is explaining your ask. We are looking for X number of dollars for X reason, and we're going to give you back X percentage, right? Very, very simple. So you guys know this one, the Shark Tank kind of pitch. We're seeking $500,000 for 10% of our company. That is an ask, and it happens, but know what you're going to do with that 10% and what that 10% means to your company. You give up 10% too early, guess what? The value of your company can actually be undermined, okay? So that's all I got for you guys. I have a survey that you guys will get sent an email on, or you can, you're going to get your email. It's going to come today or tomorrow. But please do fill it out. This type of class is designed to be iterated and changed and adjusted, so your feedback would actually help out a lot. And hopefully this was valuable for you guys, okay? Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. You guys are famous, famous. Give me 1 second.